All right, how's everybody doing? This next lesson, we are going to talk or start on text because there's a lot of different stuff in text. So I don't think I'm gonna be able to get it all in this lesson. But we're gonna start here. What we're gonna start off is with the font properties. Okay. So here we are. I'm using my same lesson two project folder, which I probably should have renamed it instead of lesson two, giving it something more generic since we're using it beyond lesson two. At any rate, I have that one up. Here I have my index.html file. I have some notes here that I have. And so again, we're going to start talking about text. And in particular, right now for this lesson, the font properties. Okay, so we're talking about fonts. Okay, first thing that you need to know is that there are three font families. Okay, those three font families are serif, sans serif, and monospace. Okay, so these are three primary font families. The serif font is the default font for, like, say, Google Chrome and other browsers. But basically, the way I explain it is the serif font. There's edges, so we can look here and see how all the characters have like an edge on them. If we look at this L, we look at the M, the E's, the R's, etc. If we look at this text, there are pointed edges on those. The sans serif font, those are without edges. There's a joke there, but I'm not going to make. But yeah, sans serif fonts don't have edges, and we'll look at that in a little bit. And then there's monospace. And monospace, that font family is where the width of each character is the same length. Okay, so those are the three generic font families. Okay, the three primary font families, and from those font families come all of our different styles of fonts. American Typewriter, Arial, Helvetica, Times New Roman, Comic Sans, which we all hate. All those fonts, come from one of those font families. Okay, so to use it in CSS, we simply use the font dash family property. Okay, we apply that to any text. We can also put it on, say, a container like a header, main or footer, or even the body, and it will apply to everything that is nested inside, or all the text that's nested inside of there. So let's look at that. Let's try that. So here, let's go back and look at this HTML that we have. Let's say our header, so that my name. Let's change that font. Right now, it is the default font again, which is a serif font. I believe it's Times New Roman for Google Chrome. But here inside my H1, I have the color. Now I'm going to change the font family. Let's say we want to use. Let's do a sans serif font just for s and giggles. So here we are, sans serif, and we see that the edges have been removed from the font, and so yeah, now we see this without the edges. That is a sans serif font. Okay, what we can also do is we can be a little more specific, and I'm going to do that. I'm going to change that from a sans serif font to this Arial, Helvetica, and sans serif. Okay, so this is what you'll probably see a little bit more of, a style like this. And what this means is, okay, we're going to apply Arial font. That's the one that we want to apply to this H1. Well, if the browser does not support Arial, first of all, throw your browser away if it doesn't. But if it does not support Arial font, then the next font it'll go to will be Helvetica. Okay, and then if Helvetica is not supported by the browser, then it'll just switch over to a sans serif font. So that's what this looks like, and we can apply this to any text. So let's say here for color, I'm sorry, for text one, I'm going to apply a font family. Font family. Let's do a monospace. Just so we can see what that looks like, and not forgetting the semicolon. And so here we can see that monospace. I'm going to change. Well, we'll change it a little bit. But here we see that the text, all of our characters, the width of them is the same length, and that is, again, that's what monospace means. But we can also apply the font family to an entire container, if you will. So let's say for this section, okay, let's say I want to apply a font family to the section. I'm gonna comment this code out right here, and I'm just gonna target the section, and I'm gonna say font family. I don't even know what this is. This font right here. Okay, I can't even pronounce that. I don't even let me try to butcher it. It's a sans serif font we see, but now we see that all of the sections we've applied that font to it. So again, we can apply the font family property to an entire container, and all the text on the inside of it would inherit those rules. So that's font family. When it comes to fonts, there are sites that you can go to that have fonts for free. Google Chrome, give me $1. Google Fonts, they have you give me $1. They have fonts for free, but some of them are free. Most of them are free. Others you have to pay for. There may be some other sites that you can find that have fonts that are free. Obviously your computer's going to have some fonts that are built in into it. So that's how you get the fonts. If you need to go and download a font, you got to pay for certain fonts. Then by all means, go ahead and do that. Give those people money. They work so hard for creating those fonts. So that's font family. Okay. Now let's look at real quick. We're going to look at font size, because this is another super important one. The font size property. Let me do this. Font size. Okay, and font size can be measured in several different ways. The ones you're going to see the most are pixels. You're going to see M, and you may see REM. Okay, I don't really fool with these too much. I can tell you that M and REM are essentially ratioed. They're ratios, so 1M is the width or the size of, I think, a P tag, if I'm not mistaken. And then so we can adjust that. We say 2M if we want to, and that'll be twice the size of a P tag. And I think it's P tag. Don't hold me to it. REM is based on the container that it's in, I believe. To show you how much I use those, I really don't use those a whole lot. I just stick with pixels. Pixels is easy for me. But again, we can change the fonts just using font size. So remember way back when we talked about headers in the very first lesson, and I mentioned that we don't use headers based on the size. Okay, it's what it represents. And that's because we can go in CSS and we can change the size of a header. So, for example, here my H1, let's say I want to make that smaller. I can say font size, and let's go with 14 pixels, and we can see that the size of the text is smaller. Okay, I believe the default for in H1 is 32 pixels. That looks right. Let me comment that out. Yep, 32 pixels is the default for an H1. So that's how font size works. And again, going with pixels might be easiest for you to handle. But if you want to try to learn M and REM, you can go ahead and do that. I believe there's some other ways that you can measure it, but those are the three primary that you will see. Um, and I think let's do something else. Let's H2 because again, so I can take this H2. Let me remove that that font size because it's default. But I'm going to target this H2, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to give it a font size of, let's say, 48 pixels. So again, there we see that I can adjust the size of my headers or my text to whatever I want it to be. So that's why I don't use headers based on the size. I use based on what it represents. So here, this is a perfect example of how that works. So we looked at font families, font size. Font families, you need to know serif, sans serif, and monospace, okay, and use the font family property. Font size, pixels, and rem, and we use the font size property for that. Next lesson, we're going to look at font weight and font style. Okay, that won't be as long, but we're going to wrap up this lesson. Practice with these. You have some text here. You can apply it to any kind of text, whether it's a link or an li, headers, paragraphs, so on and so forth. You can apply it anywhere that you want to. So go ahead and practice with that, and I'll see you on the next lesson where we're going to talk about font weight, and we're going to talk about font style. Peace, power, blessings.